So, here it is. After a desperate wait of 12 years, there is finally a new live-action Superman film. So, did it live up to the hype? The new Superman film completely abandons the origin story by just giving you a simple bit of text at the beginning, and then just kind of throws you in. You're introduced to Superman when he's just been hurt for the first time in a fight, and this kind of sets the tone for the rest of the film. There were a lot of things that I liked about this film. David Corenswet, he's a bit different to the last few Supermen, but he's hooked me in. I absolutely loved him as Superman. Is he Christopher Reeve? No, but that's a performance for me that just isn't ever going to be topped. He's vulnerable, but he does what's right, and I was so glad that he's brought back Clark Kent being the bumbling idiot. Nicholas Hoult was a really good Lex Luthor, very different, I would say, to the previous live-action interpretations, but he genuinely feels evil to the point where he is willing to do anything to bring down Superman. He's very much a representation of quite a few modern billionaire figures, and I just thought it was a nice fresh take on the character. I love Gene Hackman, but I think this film needed something new. He was definitely a key part of the enjoyment. Nathan Fillion plays a Green Lantern, and he's part of this team where he's constantly trying to push this name, the Justice Gang, and I just found him to be really funny in every scene he was in. He even had this blonde bowl cut. What can I say, he's really funny. But he doesn't have a whole ton of scenes, so I maybe would have liked to have seen more of him. There wasn't a single performance that disappointed me. This film definitely had some great action as well, and it had that signature James Gunn style to it in places. For instance, there's one moment with a character called Mr. Terrific, and he's fighting all of these guards, but in the background 5 years' time is playing. So if you are hoping for some of that, it's in here. The main plot of this film involves Luthor trying to bring down Superman, but he's doing so through a thing called a pocket universe, which acts like a gateway through these different dimensions. It is the same basic gist as before, but it's done in a slightly unique way. Another big thing that this film completely skips is the Lois Lane not knowing that Clark Kent is Superman. I'm not too sure about this, but I guess if they're trying something new, it makes sense. I did very much like Lois Lane. I felt the performance was good, and she is the character we all know and love. I would, however, have liked to have seen maybe a bit more of the Daily Planet, as I do enjoy that aspect of the story, and I think it would have helped break up the action a bit. But it is what it is, and who knows, maybe we'll get that in a sequel. I suppose my issues with the film lie in how much it tries to cram in, to the point where I do feel like it might have worked better with a simpler plot, with fewer characters. Especially as a first film, because there's just a lot going on here. It wasn't a huge deal breaker, but it just feels like the film might have had more focus if they just didn't cram in quite as much. I think I'd also have liked to have seen some more practical effects, as this film is very CGI reliant, and occasionally it can take you out of it a bit. One thing I would be really curious to see is what the reaction would be from someone who had no prior knowledge of the character, as it just doesn't go into any detail about the origin. I think it was the right call, but I do wonder if it would leave someone else in the dark. The soundtrack was interesting. There's a lot of punk rock which I wasn't too sure on. I did enjoy hearing the classic theme make its return in this new form, but it wasn't quite as good as how it sounded in 1978. I think John Murphy did a perfectly fine job and probably did what was asked of him, but I do think the John Williams score was better. Overall, I really did enjoy this film, and I did like the focus on Superman being made vulnerable and having to overcome facing his first challenge. I thought that the new Fortress of Solitude was awesome. In general, the locations all looked superb. Metropolis looked better than ever. I think that this film is the closest to feeling like a comic on screen with the amount of characters and action, and it's definitely a Superman film I will be rewatching years to come, And out of all the films I've seen recently, this is the one that I most want to see a franchise be born from. I should clarify I'm coming at this as someone who loves the 1978 Superman and really wasn't a fan of Man of Steel. So I think if you're someone who loved Man of Steel and the direction that was going in, then I could see you having a real problem with this one. So it really is going to be a case of personal preference. So overall, I'm happy and can't wait to see Superman's next on-screen adventure, but if any of you have seen this one, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I always like to see other opinions.